Jake with Legacy 4x4 here again, and today we're doing a nice simple video. We're just running the fuel lines from my fuel cell up to the carburetor that I just rebuilt on my 1967 Jeepster Commando. All right, this project's gonna come in a few parts. The first thing we've got to do is we have to build, or finish building, I should say, the remote fill for the rear of the Commando. There's two parts to this really, and that's gonna be the center cap on top of the fuel cell itself, and then it's gonna be adapting the same cap that came on the fuel cell to be on that back of the roll cage where I built the station for this. Both of these parts I'm going to cut on the plasma table. I'm going to weld in a piece of 1.75 inch DOM, and then I'm going to run a 175 hose between the two of them in order to connect them. Let's go ahead and start on that, guys. Here's what this looks like. I did make a mistake and I warped it a little bit as I was making it. That's okay. It turned out I just bent it on the vise back into straightness. It's good enough. Now I'm just going to paint it, and then I'm going to put it on top of the fuel cell where it belongs. All right, there you go. You can see what the hose looks like. I'm not a fan of this kink that the hose has right here. I think it's because this piece of tube that I'm using at the bottom of this cap is a little bit too long. I wanted to cut it off and make it a little bit shorter so that wouldn't have as steep of an angle. But honestly, I can't get the hose off now. It's a nice tight fit on that 175 DOM. So that's just how that's gonna stay. But you can see what that looks like back there. The cap, like I said, it's the cap that came with the fuel cell. Pulls right off. It's kind of messy in there, but it works. Fits right back on and closes. And you can see it'll go straight down to that cap that I made down there. The line is just a marine fuel filler hose line. It's 1.75 inner diameter. Got it on Amazon. Nothing too fancy. All right, so we just finished doing the remote fill. Now it's time to run the actual fuel lines from the fuel cell itself all the way up to the carburetor. Nice, quick, and easy. The order of this, we're gonna go from the fuel cell, we're gonna go to the fuel pump, external fuel, electric fuel pump that's gonna be on the frame. That fuel pump is gonna run into the fuel filter, which is then gonna tie into regulator and then into the carburetor. Pretty straightforward. We'll do that next. So for fuel pump, I'm just using this MP boosted high flow fuel pump. Got it on eBay for 100 bucks, and I'm matching fuel regulator that came with that pump from the same guys. I'm gonna put those together and then run the AN line down the passenger side of the Jeep. All right, that's all there is to it. It was nice and simple. I'll go ahead and give you guys a quick look of what this looks like all finished up. All right, so as you can see here, I have the regulator mounted straight to the firewall. This regulator came with the fuel pump I'm using that you saw earlier. It's nice, I like the red. It fits with the engine bay and everything like that. Nice and clean. I've got it running a 45-degree AN adapter and a 90-degree AN adapter. One side of it routes this direction over here into the carburetor there. As you can see, that all nice and tight. Looks nice and clean and simple up there, which is what I was going for. Coming down this way, you see going from the regulator down, it hits the fuel filter right there. Pretty simple. We got it going from the fuel filter over the top of the frame and then down. Up in here, you can see where it's coming from the fuel filter down straight into the fuel pump. I've got the fuel pump mounted using the 2 mounting screws that came with it into the top of my frame rail. And then I also mounted a small triangle piece of scrap 1/8 that I had down here, and I ran this bolt through it. I did that just to provide some extra stability to this whole assembly, so now there's no wobble, no nothing like that as the fuel pump operates. You can see the wires for the fuel pump here, obviously yet to be wired. And then I've got it running, and then the fuel line runs up on top, again on top of the frame rail to here, and then back to the fuel cell. You can see that the fuel cell drops straight through the floor, as you guys probably saw as I was doing all the body work and everything, to allow that sump a little bit of space to not hit on anything. That hole's plenty big enough in case I ever upgrade this to a different fuel cell, but this is going to work from now. From the fuel cell, I've got it running just at a 45 straight to the frame, and I've got the other side of the fuel cell capped off. I'm not currently planning on running a return line, so I'm not that worried about that. Now, something that I did that I think is kind of cool, and you're welcome to have a different opinion if you don't like them. I had these extra thick 9/16 washers just laying around. I wasn't using them for anything, and I used these to route the fuel line through. It gives it something nice and easy to route the fuel line through to keep it on top of the frame where I want it, and then I think they look pretty good, honestly. They're nice and simple, and it's also just reusing parts that I had, so I didn't have to go buy anything. That finishes up the fuel delivery though. Pretty straightforward little video. Like I said, I'm using just eBay parts on this. I'm trying to keep it nice and cheap because I'm coming to the end of this build. I know how much money I have into it. I'm trying to keep things nice and cheap. So we'll see how these work. If they ever do go bad on me, I'll replace them with a better, higher quality part from a reputable manufacturer. But for now, this will work. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. A nice, simple video for the day. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, guys, and stick around for a lot more. Next week, I'm gonna do the cooling system, and then after that, we're pretty close to doing electrical and some other small stuff. So thanks, guys.